Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody. I've finally done it. I have reviewed, well, not reviewed, I have consumed every notable RWBY, I guess, piece of media that you can get. Right? Obviously, there's certain ones that, like, you just can't. Like, I think it's RWBY Arena, you can no longer play. And stuff like that. I can't play the Chinese mobile, but all the like real content or like the content that you can actually watch or find some weird way to watch, well, here it is. So let's start off with, well, this is probably going to be a little controversial, the trailers. I think the trailers are good, but at the end of the day, you don't need the trailers, if that makes sense. I think that you don't need to watch the trailers to enjoy the show. I can say that from personal experience. I didn't watch the trailers on my first watching of RWBY. I have told this story before. Well, RWBY Volume 1 was there. I was like, damn, I've heard about RWBY. I'm gonna finally watch it. And I did. And boom, here we are today, right? So, honestly, the trailers, while they're well made and while they are very good trailers for the show, at the end of the day, they're not necessary media for you to consume. Now, getting on for RWBY media that you kind of do need to consume, you kind of need to watch the first volume. And overall, the first volume is quite good. I'm going to give it probably a B tier. Now, it shows its problems. It has a lot of problems. It does. Okay? Listen, all of these have problems. But one thing that really does help Volume 1 is, well, it's just charming, you know? Like, it's enjoyable to watch Volume 1. It's goofy, it's you know? Now, to be fair, it also feels like it has a budget of $20, but they do spread that $20 pretty well. No, but there's also some really good action set pieces in it. I like how it starts off a lot of the characters. We get some good introductions. Everything is good. Obviously, there's some issues, you know, so not everything is good. But, you know, there's some stuff I would make a little bit better, give a little more budget. But overall, it's charm, and it's the first volume, so it naturally just kind of propels it a little bit forward, right? Next, I got RWBY The Session. It is a good tie-in book. I enjoy it, but at the same time, it's a pain to find any sort of, there's no official translation. So you gotta dig in order to find it, which I don't like. However, it does give us a decent chunk of interactions that we don't often see. Like, I'm pretty sure it was Weiss, John, and Pyrrha. There was a nice little interaction going there. I'm pretty sure Nora and Yang were chilling. Yeah, like, since at least part of the book involves them being very relaxed and in a tropical resort, we get to see them in different forms, relaxing and interacting, which is fun. On top of that, it does the whole break up in a side story quest decently, because they're not really, you know, it's not like, oh, I hate you all now. It's just they're fighting and that's it. You know, it doesn't play it off as more than what it is, because let's be real, this is the spin-off light novel. Like, dog. Oh yeah, Team RWBY is definitely going to break up and never talk to each other again during the spin-off light novel. Like, no, you know? But they don't play it up that way, which is very nice, because I've read some spin-offs where they're like, Hiccup's gonna die. Even though this canonically takes place before How to Train Your Dragon 2, where Hiccup is the main character, you know? I still love Race to the Edge, though. I don't know why I use that example, considering I love the show, but hey, you can always find faults in something you love. Anyway, I got the first RWBY manga. This one, quite good. Once again, it's a good side story, but man, RWBY's artwork is always pretty good. It's always pretty good. Now, I'm probably going to give it a C tier again. Obviously, actually, no, I'll probably give it here. I think that the artwork does kind of carry because it's just sort of a generic, what's going on here story. We do get a little bit of stuff. Like, it's on my shelf, and, you know, we get to see a little bit of, Ruby fuck Cardin. They have a cute little interaction between Blake and Ruby, where Blake is talking about a mystical sword that's linked to mythology, and Ruby's geeking out over, well, a mythical sword, right? And stuff like that really does. It helps the manga feel even more alive than even the session. That's why it's a decent bit above. But at the end of the day, it's a side story, you know? And they can only go so far. Next, I got the anthology manga. This one is a lot harder to rank. Why? Well, because sometimes it's really good, and sometimes it's really bad. Sometimes I don't want to read that chapter. Other times, I don't want to put that chapter down, right? It ranges very much in quality, and there is also some stuff that is pretty good, and even adds to the show. For example, I've talked about this prior, Ren seeing a little bit of his dad in Ironwood as that sort of stoic masculine figure to push the city or town that he lives in forward, gives credence to the idea that Ren would like Ironwood more than the others, especially since he misses his dad because his dad is dead, right? Like, I feel that's a pretty valid reason to miss someone if they are dead. But anyway, it's stuff like that that means that the manga is good, but overall it varies so much in quality. I can't fully say that, I like this one more than I like that, you know? Although, to be fair, I do also like the part that it's a combination of a bunch of fan comics from a bunch of fans of the show, or a lot of them are, and it's just them making, it's very cute, and it does sort of put a connection between us, the fans, and the showrunner, which is always nice. So, let's see, better than the session. Next, I got RWBY, the official manga. Oh, that's a stupid name. Alright, first off, not too bad, but it has the worst artwork of the manga. Let me repeat that. The manga, it has the worst artwork. Not the worst artwork of the graphic novel or comic book. We'll get to that one. We will talk about that one. But as far as all the mangas, this one has the worst art. And that does kind of bite it. On top of that, it's just volumes 1 and 2. You know? I kind of wish that it kept going, if I'm being real. Just because if you do have a friend who really doesn't like CGI, but you want to show them RWBY, this is a decent alternative for volumes 1 and 2, but that's just it. It's only 1 and 2. So at that point, volume 3, they gotta watch it anyway. You know, and I know, boo-hoo, you have to watch an amazing volume. Oh no, you have to watch volume 3, those poor... But, like, still, if you don't like the Poser era, the manga would serve as an alternative, but the manga doesn't even properly serve as an alternative. So, kind of, what's the point? You know? It does have a few narrative changes, which are nice. You know, it gives it something a little fresh. But at the end of the day, honestly, all they needed to do was give us one more batch of the manga. Volume 3. Boom. That's all you needed to do. Because then, if you don't like the Poser era, You can read them all, and then it fills a niche. Right now, it doesn't fill a niche. Especially since there's even another manga which also covers Volume 1. So, what is the point of this? And guess what? That manga has better artwork. So, genuinely, I don't want to hate on it too much because it's not doing anything wrong. If you like Volumes 1 and 2, you're going to like the manga. But at the same time, it doesn't do enough right to put it anywhere other than D tier, right? Next, I got Volume 2. I think Volume 2 is a step down from Volume 1. I do like the aspects of, Team RWBY, the enemies are fortifying in the background, therefore Team RWBY tries to get their act together in order to try to stop these villains. And the main issue I have with that, though, is even though they have a sense of agency in them, they are still not truly rewarded for it. Like, they want to go and investigate, about the White Fang and make sure that they're not doing anything terrible and all that. But they don't find the White Fang's base. RWBY falls into it. They don't stop the train crashes. They don't, notify the authorities of Roman Torchwick. He was just on the train when they so I kind of wish, I do like the agency that they show, and I think that's a step forward. Volume 1 had them not doing, just going through school life. Volume 2, they actually step into the role of attempting to be heroes, and, it's good. That's a good part. But, overall, their agency is contradicted by the plot basically handing stuff to them. So, yeah, I think it is a step down. On top of that, we have stuff that isn't really notable until Volume 3, such as, Cinder, Atom, and Emerald and Mercury. But overall, I do still like it. I I don't think it's amazing, but I do like it. And I'm putting it in D, because it does do a lot right, but it does do a lot wrong. Also, I don't know if this is going to sound very great, but I don't think it's as big of a step up graphically as the other volumes. You watch each volume improve with graphics. Volumes 1 and 2, it feels like it's the smallest gap between. That might just be my personal thing, I'm sure I'm very sure that someone who likes animation would love to lecture me on something. But they're not. No one's around to bug me right now, so I'm just giving you my raw thoughts. Next, I got Grim Eclipse. It's a fun game. Don't 100% it. That's a pain. I did. It's a pain in my butt. But overall, it's a fine game. It's a cute little side project. You can't. The gameplay is not amazing, and you don't really have that many combos. But, at the same time, you're playing as Team RWBY fighting against hordes of Grimm in a beat 'em up. There is just something innately fun in that. You watch a show about slaying monsters, and now you get to slay monsters. Wow. What's next? You're gonna give Caveman a club? It does its job well. It's fun, it's enjoyable, but it's just not an amazing product. You'll get a kick out if you're a RWBY fan, but if you're 3 seasons deep into a show, you might not want to spend $20. Which, that is also the thing, it's not that expensive, which is nice. If this thing was $40, I'd be pissed, And then there's also the Team Juniper DLC, which I would recommend if you are playing this game, just because, an additional 4 characters does add a lot. But yeah, overall, not bad. Next, alright, wow, shocker, Volume 3. What can I say about Volume 3? I love the slow... It's simultaneously slow and fast-paced. The switch from the happy-go-lucky tournament arc to the oh god we are screwed arc. Man, I am truly away with words, as you can tell. But what I mean by that is, while we've obviously seen the villains planning something, for us, we see it slowly build up. However, when it actually gets to, everything going wrong, and that sudden shift for the characters in the story, that allows for the fast-paced action, but it also allows for the slow build-up that we've had throughout. Honestly, volumes 1 and 2, it was more prevalent in 2 than it was in 1, and that's also what I'm talking about. 3 directly builds on top of 2, so while 2 itself isn't necessarily the best, well, actually, I would argue it's probably one of the lesser volumes, it definitely does provide a solid enough foundation that when Volume 3 swoops in, it is fast-paced while allowing enough time to linger for us to get to know a little bit more about the characters, for us to, build certain characters up only to take them down, and, also push to the forefront how dangerous these opponents are that just until recently were going right under Team RWBY's nose, right? There's also some amazing scenes, like, let's be real, Adam, Cinder, Pyrrha, Yang, all these characters have some crazy heart-stopping scenes behind them, and it truly does make you go, wow, right? So that's why it's an S tier. Will it be the only S tier product? Continue to watch to find out. Alright, next I got the Volume 4 trailer. Honestly, I think it's just as good as the Red trailer. I go back and forth between these two. I would say the original Red trailer is very iconic. Like, very, very, very iconic. And I would say musically it's better. And the way the music is integrated into the combat is better. But I do overall think that Volume 4's poster really did show what the team could do in Maya. And it is a really good demonstration. It's very fast-paced, very action-packed. Well, no. It's very... By action-packed, I mean that it properly utilizes its time to shove as much action as you can possibly get into one trailer. And it also shows what we should, keyword being should, have going forward. Now, do they always live up to the action-packed trailers? Unfortunately, no. But, as I keep saying, we're gonna get onto that. Next, got RWBY Chibi. This is probably my favorite RWBY spinoff. No. It is not my favorite RWBY spinoff. And not the most important. But overall, I do think it has had, at least from what I've seen, the most impact on the community. Just due to the fact that, hey, it's the Chibi comedy skits, right? Brought to life with, and it allows our characters to interact far more than what they regularly do. Nora is talking to Clyde about tea, while Weiss is looking nervously in the corner as she's going, oh my goodness, the cocaine child is currently interacting with my high-class maid who can switch personalities every time he sneezes. What am I going to do? Or there's a scene where Mercury is just interacting with Nora and RWBY, and it's just like, oh, okay. Or Neo is just being sassy and just in the background of some random shenanigans. Or Yang kind of beefing with Winter and kind of having semi-beef with Winter because Winter is very, very pro-authority, at least in the first couple volumes. We just get weird interactions. But let's be real. We all like weird interactions. We all want to see, Winter interact with, or, Ren be a little bit more goofy, And to be fair, I do kind of wish it just leaned into its absurdity more. I think that the fact that it's only in volumes 1 to 3, only the Beacon era, holds it back. But also at the same time, I feel like they can just say screw it and just add more characters. Tell me why in the comedy spin-off series, they can't just throw Oscar in. Like, tell me, why can't there be an episode where Ozpin is like, oh, we got a new transfer student. He's a little young, guys. Don't bug him. And then it's just Oscar. What's that gonna hurt, man? It's not gonna hurt us. Give us more interactions. Let them mess around. Let them be stupid kids. That's what this series is about. That's what Chibi is about. I've spent way too long discussing Chibi. Alright, next one. DC Comics. I like this comic. I also like its comics stories inside of it. I think breaking down Blake and Adam's relationship is interesting. I like Weiss standing up to her mom. Although it seems different from how the show handles it, which is kind of disconnecting, you know? There is the story, though, of RWBY and Team Ranger liberating a town. That's pretty cool. Gives an exploration and also gives us some, I guess, foreshadowing is the right word, for RWBY feeling guilt over Penny and Kira's death, which is further explored in Volume 4. But also, my favorite is the one where Yang is helping the elderly woman, trying to figure out how to live through life with only one arm. Also, I'm not going to spoil too much, but the twist at the end, it's very fun. I would say Yang is the best story, but hey, that's just my personal opinion. Anyway, I think it does a good job, but it doesn't do anything amazing. Also, I'm going to be real, the comics, on average, look worse than the mangas. I'm just gonna be real. I'm sorry. I get it. Comics. I'm not saying comics look bad, but these comics in particular do not look as good as the manga. And when you're reading all this stuff in relatively quick succession, because you're trying to get through a bunch of stuff, guess what? You notice these things. Alright. You know what time it is now? It's time for Volume 4. Volume 4 is good. I like the exploration of Ren and Nora's backstory. I think that's handled very well. I think the final villain being a Grimm is very nice. I prefer that. No, I don't prefer that over the human antagonists. But I do think, variety is the spice of life. And that's a nice little variety to be chucked on top of our dish. On top of that, we get a good exploration of John and RWBY. And as I already mentioned, Ren and Nora get time to shine. We do also get a little bit of Yang's arc, and we get some of Weiss' arcs and Blake's arcs. Now, I would say, if I'm being real, my least favorite parts are when we're dealing with Team RWBY and not Team Ranger. So I kind of wish that they either devoted more, I guess, manpower or more time to either Team Ranger or Team RWBY. Because when it's split weirdly both ways, we get things where, honestly, Yang's arc feels a little rushed. And it leads to, while everyone is at least decently likable, except Blake, I will stand on that point. I do not care. Volumes 4 to 5, Blake, I do not like her. I do not care what anyone says. She sucks. She is mean. She is rude. Everything you don't want, she is. She seems entitled as well. Like, I don't care how many times you cry in front of your dad, dog. I don't care. If I cared, dude, I've watched Ava. I've seen someone cry in front of their dad before, and it doesn't do anything. Jeez. But yeah, overall, I wish they either fully focused on Team Ranger and gave us even more of that, and also gave us some more interaction scenes, or they properly balanced who needed what. For example, I think Weiss needed the least amount of screen time because she doesn't really go through a big character arc. She's just kind of escaping her dad, which, considering she's a very well-trained huntsman, or huntsman in training, and he's a CEO, it shouldn't have been that hard anyway. But yeah, overall, asking for more of something is normally an indication that you like it, and it's normally an indication that it is at least a decent quality product. Although the fact that it's in A tier is a little more than decent. Also, Tyrion vs. Crow is one of the best fights in the series. Don't care. That's just a fact. All right, next one. Man, I don't like a board game. I don't like board games, dog. On top of that, the board game is it's kind of clunky. It probably would be. I played it through Tabletop Simulator. It probably would be better in person, but at the same time, dog, it should be fun no matter what. If you play Battleship in Tabletop Simulator and you play Battleship just normal, guess what? You're gonna have fun either way. This one, it's very clunky. I'm gonna be real, and it's a little weird. I'm not trying to hate on it, but like, dog, I gotta put it in E tier. It's a board game. Next, I got the Volume 5 character trailers. These are good. Out of all of them, I probably like the... do I put them? Nah, I don't think. I like the Weiss trailer more. And then Blake's is really the only one that I would bump up. That's because I like how it explores and gives us a little backstory for Aelia. To be fair, I wish that was in the actual show. But at the same time, if we create the precedent of putting story beats in the trailers, then if that precedent is set, I can't really hate on something for, well, keeping up with the precedent that has already been set, right? Now, that is going to obviously detract points, but at the same time, it's good, and it explores Ilya in a way that is fascinating and gives us more insight into how she behaved as a person, but also just why she does the things she does. And then also, it's pretty well animated. It's definitely better animated than Volume 5, and maybe Volume 4. The Volume 4 also fluctuated, I would say. But at the same time, Volume 4 had pretty decent lighting. That's also a thing I never talk about. Well, no, I talk about a decent chunk. RWBY seems to have very good lighting. I don't know what it is. Especially the later volumes. Volumes 9, the second part of the Justice League movie, have phenomenal lighting. I don't care what anyone says. You know, if you want to debate me on that, cool. My phone number is do not care, leave me alone, let me talk to my computer on the internet. Okay, hope you wrote that all down. Anyway, Volume 5. Volume 5 is a disappointment. Here's why. Alright, so Volume 5, it was the build-up for Volumes 4, it was the build-up from Volume 4. Did it properly end the conflicts that were started technically in Volume 3, but primarily through Volume 4? Not really, or it technically did, but not enough to a satisfying degree. Do I hate it? No. Is there a lot to dislike? Yes. Yes, there is. From the villains not really having a great plan to the wasting of characters like Sienna, or even just the lackluster fight scenes. I'm gonna be real. This is probably the low point of the show when it comes to actual combat. It's just bad, dog. Like, the combat and the action scenes are very bad this volume. There are exceptions. For example, I Will Die on This Hill. Weiss versus the Queen Lancer is underrated. It's a good fight. It has unique premise with a unique location, and Weiss utilizes her abilities in a fun way, and the Grim feels threatening. On top of that, the build up at the beginning where, like, they're going down and you hear it over the radio, it sets up the threat really well. It does. That is a very good fight. And then the Cinder vs. Raven fight, it's also decent. Nothing incredible. But it's a good RWBY fight, which also, I'm gonna be real, a good RWBY fight is, honestly, it's a pretty high bar. Like straight up, I've seen some very bad fights. Even in some shows that are amazing even have bad fights. Like for example, I love One Piece to death. Some of One Piece's fights, like filler fights, which is what Volume 5 ends up feeling like, are bad. I like some of the fights in Dressrosa suck, dog. Especially in the anime, they were horrible. And to be fair, Volume 5 being like an anime Dressrosa should probably tell you why it's an E tier. Now, if it was like manga Dressrosa, but yeah. Speaking of the superior version, let's talk about Redux. Redux takes basically everything right about Volume 5. It fixes the pacing, which I didn't talk enough about. But yeah, it fixes the pacing and makes the volume shorter and more compact. So it feels like more stuff is happening, and it feels less likely, and it feels like there are less scenes of what is essentially just smoke and mirrors, which, you know, the average person can see through. That anyway, so it cuts out a lot of the filler. It just does. On top of that, it has color grading, it has glow effects. So, as I was yapping about the lighting is very good in Redux. It's much better than the original 5. It also tightened up the script. You know, cutting unnecessary lines, cutting repeated dialogue, cutting Nora's scene. Okay, listen, I'm not giving them hate for that. This is just a personal thing. I really like Nora. She's one of my favorite characters. So just having less lines from her just kind of sucks. But it does help the pacing of the overall volume. So hey, you give and take, right? So overall, I think improving every single thing Volume 5 has done gives Redux an A tier. Pretty good bar. Next, we got the Adam trailer, or the Volume 6 Adam trailer. This breaks down who Adam is as a person, his rise to power, you know, basically everything we need to know about Adam before he would die. And I'm sorry, listen, that is a spoiler, yes, but at the same time, Volume 6 came out a long time ago, and also, if you see this trailer, you know Adam's gonna, you know, like the way they were building up to Adam's death. You know Adam was gonna be the first one to die. He's the one villain that isn't directly connected to Salem, and they're moving on from the White Fang. The White Fang subplot technically ends with him. You could argue it ends with Volume 5, because that's when the organization, the White Fang, no longer becomes a major threat. So yeah, he was gonna die. And it just builds up properly. To be fair, I think Adam is inherently more interesting than Ilya. Or honestly, I think he's more interesting than most of the characters in the show. Just because, you know, the innate concept of a freedom fighter eventually turning into, you know, a Megatron. Like, he's basically Megatron. Cool. So now that I've put that image in your head, I expected the Adam Taurus fan art, okay? I want Adam Taurus with a giant cannon on his arm. And also, make Yang Optimus Prime then, because I think it would be funny. And also a panty and stocking reference, which itself is a bunch of reference, you know, we're going with reference-ception, okay? Alright, Volume 6. Volume 6 is definitely a step up from 5. Definitely. But Volume 6 has some of the best and some of the worst episodes. My thing is, I kind of hate how Volume 6 is worse in the later half. I do like Adam coming back, and I like his fights. That's good. The giant robot is not as cool as I wish it could be, because they're fighting a giant robot, you know? Now, it does provide a unique setting on top of the water, on the shore of a cliff. That's a very unique piece, and it is a good fight overall. But on top of that, some of the story decisions are kind of, that's a little suspicious. On top of that, Team RWBY being very hasty does kind of lead at least me personally, to me being like, hey, why are you guys doing that? Also, on top of that, the main antagonist being just a member of the military, not an actual member of the villains, really makes them feel lesser. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I really wish Watts instead was the one who was the villain for Volume 6, where he hacked into the giant robot and made it go on a rampage or something of the sort. I think that would have improved it, because them fighting a branch of the military just because that person in the military is just kind of being a dick leads me to just enjoy it. It makes them seem less rational, and it also makes the military seem less competent, because Cordovan sucks like she does, and the fact that she's in a position of power is kind of sad. And I just realized I described basically all of politics. Man, how is that person in power? Man, how is that person? Yay, I love getting political on my RWBY ranking of everything. But yeah, I think the innate disappointment I have with Volume 6, where basically once we get to the town, we don't have all the good episodes, like all the amazing episodes are behind us. So now we're just kind of left with decent episodes. I'm going to give it a decent score, right? Then we got Volume 7. I enjoy Volume 7. It is a decent volume. It doesn't feel like it takes that many risks, though. It does feel if I'm being real, it does feel a little bit darker than Volume 6. As far as like actual, Tyrion murders this guy, we see some blood, characters get stabbed a lot, that part feels a little bit darker, but the actual content in the story, such as like Salem's backstory and stuff of the sort, the stuff in 6 doesn't compare to 7 as far as like major shakeups of the world, right? On top of that, 7 doesn't really have any. 7 has one major death of a important character, but even then, they're not that important, right? It does provide a lot of setup for Volume 8, which I will be talking about. Why did I say that like you guys didn't know I was going to talk? Ah, yes, plot twist. He's actually going to be talking about Volume 8 in this thing where the video is called I Rank Everything RWBY. Wow, shocker. But yeah. Volume 7, it doesn't take that many risks. The main risk it does take is Ironwood. And honestly, I like where they were going. I liked the destination. I didn't like the journey. I'm just gonna say that. I wish Ironwood was more of a anti-hero, maybe not, or I guess more so like a villain, but not as villainy. But that's a thing for Volume 8. In 7, he's still kind of riding that line, and there's also that moral question of, should we, guarantee the safety of half while throwing the other half to their doom, or take the chance forever, right? There's that innate moral conundrum, which does also add some substance to 7. On top of that, there's the, should we tell Ironwood? Should we inform him? Or, oh no, we're making the mistakes of Ozpin. Except not really, because Ozpin did it just to himself. He's doing it for others. There's just some innately interesting stuff in 7, right? So, while 6 definitely has better episodes, and honestly, me personally, I like, if I can choose between higher highs, if a show has higher highs but lower lows, I prefer that over something that is rather just consistent. If something is consistently a 7, but then you have another show which fluctuates between an 8 and a 6, right? Especially since I like to binge shows, and that means that if you binge them fast enough, you get a bunch of 8s, and the 6s kind of just blur together. That's how you watch One Piece, ladies and gents. You binge it. All right, next, Arrowfell. Arrowfell is a good game. It is more polished than Grimy Clips, and the gameplay loop is on the same level as Grimy Clips, but the innately dumb factor of beating up monsters is not the same, unfortunately. It is also $40. I did not intentionally foreshadow that, but it is $40. Is it great for $40? Yeah, it's not great, but it's not terrible. It's a fun game. You get a decent chunk of hours out of it. You can definitely waste your money on other games, but I wouldn't say it's anything to write home about. So yeah, it's not better than Volume 2. I will say that. RWBY Fairy Tales, you suck. You have one or two good stories, I think. It's like the Salem story, and yeah, that's it. I like the Salem story, and even then it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. That's it, you know. I don't know, man. It's not great. It's not that great. I don't enjoy it that much. Honestly, on top of that, it doesn't feel like you learn much. Like, I guess you do technically learn about the crown, but if you want to learn about the relics, you can watch the show. So its niche of information is it is always fun to have additional information, you know. It's like those old skits we used to watch on Naruto where they would explain chakra or something, you know. It's not hurting anyone, but at the same time, we have a superior version of something giving us information on the world of Remnant, and that is RWBY, World of Remnant. It's very fun. I enjoy it. I'm also the kind of person who, shocker, I do power scaling. I like learning about the weird rules and the stupid math behind these characters and their superhuman abilities. So giving me more information about this world is kind of nice. I have heard some people say that, oh, I don't like the fact that they put more information in World of Remnant. It makes it feel like homework. It doesn't feel like that to me, at least. I feel as it's more of a, oh, you want to learn more about the show? Go right ahead. Because I'm going to be I feel that the show at least does a decent job, not an amazing, but a decent enough job of providing enough information to allow viewers to just hop on and, ride the ride. But if you want to see, oh, what is the culture of this city? What is the culture of this town? Stuff of the sort. Can you give us a deeper explanation of semblances? That's what this is. It's essentially those old Naruto videos where it's chakra explained, the Renegon explained, except this time it has an official Rooster Teeth stamp of approval. To be fair, that probably doesn't mean much because Rooster Teeth is dead, but it's something. Alright, next. After the Fall is a solid book. It's a good book. I enjoy it. I think it explores Team Coffee rather well, and I'm happy that I got to watch it or read it. I listen to it in audiobook format. That's the format I like for most of my novels, and in that format, it is also very good. So, overall, I'm going to give it. It does provide some additional context for the volumes going forward. That's nice, but we'll get into the true magnum opus of the RWBY novels going forward. Next, I got you. You suck. What's rule number 3? You suck. Well, why do you suck? Well, you don't like Sun for some reason. I am not kidding. This book does not like Sun. Sun's a terrible leader. He abandoned us in our time of need. How dare you go after Blake as she's going into a terrorist hideout? That's terrible. You suck, Sun. Sun, you don't think anything through, despite the fact that you do. Oh, Sun, you're having family troubles at your family dojo? Well, guess what? You suck. The only reason we're hanging out with you, son, is because we're actually the cool guys. We're actually sick. You suck. And I just described like maybe 30% of this book to you guys by doing my stupid skit. Like, this book hates Sun. Like, oh my goodness, man. They have an agenda. Their agenda was maintained, bro. One Piece fans can learn a thing or two from these guys. The agenda was pushed. On top of that, Team Coffee sometimes just acts like jerks and doesn't. And the worst part is, okay, even if Sun is acting what I would argue is out of character, Team Coffee and their just complete dismissal of Sun and his team is also genuinely very rude, especially considering how they behave in every other piece of media we see them. They are competent, they are careful, and they are good at their job. So why would you intentionally torture Neptune with water? Like, that does not sound, oh, yeah, they're calm, collective, and good people, and they're good at their job. And then you smash cut to the book, and it's like water torture. Interesting. Oh, but one of their friends wasn't... Yeah, that is true. That is a good defense. But, put that in court, dog. Your Honor, the reason my client was holding the guy who's terrified of water over a fountain and dunking his head in water repeatedly to get information. The reason he did that was because Velvet was maybe in danger. Shoot, I may have just gotten him 20 years in prison. Well, anyway, moving on. This is dumb, but I hope you guys are having fun. Nothing like a little stupid fun to brighten your day. Next, I got Volume 8. I like Volume 8. I'm just going to be real. Volume 8 has its issues, but the deaths, they do hit hard, okay? Maybe not all of the deaths. You know which one I'm talking about. His death, that one wasn't that impactful, but I do think that it at least had a decent enough impact, and it also showed the rest of the, characters, the consequences of following orders to the bitter end. And yeah. Now, I think Winter switching sides was a little interesting. It wasn't handled that well. It was kind of just like, oh, he's gone insane. Shoot. And that's also, speaking of that, Ironwood also just kind of does like a, yes, I should go bomb mental. Like, that really does feel out of character. I understand why, the show does give at least a reason for it, but just as a viewer, I feel that reason is not satisfactory for that. Like, I don't think it's satisfactory for, yes, in order to get what I want and save all these people, I should vaporize these people. Big brain. Like, I'm obviously trying to keep spoilers a little light just in case, you watch this while you're watching through Volume 5 or something. But yeah, I think as an individual, I can just only say this as an individual. I don't think it did enough for Ironwood's spiral into madness. On top of that, man, some of the deaths, they are simultaneously great and terrible. Like, one death in particular, and you guys know which one I'm talking about, is they kill them again, right? Or yeah, that spoils it. So Penny, she dies again, and I felt that. I still did. Even though this is her second time dying, I felt that, right? I felt it. I knew it was going to happen, though. The minute I saw Penny again, I'm like, damn, they might kill her. They're going to kill her again because robot, right? And even if I knew that was going to happen, and even if I think, relatively speaking, it's not a good writing decision to kill off a character again, I still think that it did enough of a good job of presenting it as a tragedy. Plus, this is simultaneously where the heroes lose and win. And I think that they hit that balance very well, where they saved the people, but they didn't save the objects. So it is technically a victory, but the victory is not felt properly until, honestly, not even really Volume 9. But I'll get into that later. So yeah, overall, I think 8 is better than 7. I think it took more risk. I think it did more crazy stuff. There are some more low points, but at the same time, there are also some higher highs. Penny's death, the bomb blowing up, that is still a phenomenal moment in RWBY, period. Not even Volume, just in general, it's phenomenal. Salem, while not feeling like the biggest threat, the minute she starts throwing hands, you go, oh wow, we're kind of screwed, huh? Like, John and Ren and Yang all just got one shot. We might be cooked. Saying that out loud, though, I'm gonna be real. If I find out that my my backup is John, Yang, and Ren, I might be like, damn, I might be cooked. So, but yes, it does still do a good job of establishing Salem as a threat. Just not as well as I wish. It's like, I wish it was a 10, but instead it's like 7, right? Next, I got Ice Queendom. I wish, actually, I'll do both of them at the same time. I either wish they made the story properly feel like a 12-episode saga, or they gave us a shorter story and then didn't repeat it. So basically, in the manga, it repeats, or it does not repeat. In the anime, there are far more, RWBY goes in by herself, then RWBY, Yang, and Blake, then RWBY, Yang, and Blake, and John. Then, they have to do it multiple. And it kind of relieves tension where it feels like they don't really die. And also, Weiss is not going to die in the spin-off. But even then, they somehow find their way to remove even more tension. So even though it's beautifully animated and the soundtrack is awesome, I love the mix of RWBY-style soundtrack with... There's no other way to put it, just anime. Because RWBY has a very American rock. Not necessarily American rock, because I know that's an actual genre of music, but more so like a very rock-focused soundtrack, similar to Sonic. And RWBY Ice Queendom mixes that with also a classic anime soundtrack that you would hear in something more akin to a battle shonen. And the mixture of those two does provide a unique soundtrack. And then, I've said it before, the animation is phenomenal and is really great. I do like the recap of the first 3 episodes. I think it does do a good job of recapping Volume 1. I just wish that, hey, maybe give me a story that was worth the 9 other episodes. That's my issue. I feel that they didn't give a big enough story for 9 episodes because they were worried about the first 3. And it just leads to it feeling a little bit repetitive and a little bit bloated. So I either wish the story was more expansive, or give us a full recap of Volume 1 and then give us, all of Ice Queendom, but in only 6 episodes, and just cut a lot of filler. But yeah, overall, it's still a good product. Volume 1's got its charms. I can't. The Ice Queendom manga, though, is a faster manga. It's 13 chapters. To be fair, those are larger chapters, so around 40 pages, I want to say. So it's not, I can read this in an hour. No, you're going to be reading there for a couple hours. It's very fun. The manga is also beautiful. My literal only complaint about the manga's artwork is that we do not get enough 2-pages spreads. Because, oh my goodness, this manga is beautiful. I love how I'm assuming it's a he. Sorry, my bad. I love the way they design the characters. And everything. Okay? I love the way they designed the characters. I love the way they, design the background and throw their little manga spin on these Ice Kingdom designs. There is so much life in this manga, and it is genuinely the best looking manga out of all of these. Hell, it's the best looking graphic novel for RWBY, period. I do not care what anyone says. It definitely looks better than the comics, and it definitely looks better than the other mangas. It is the best looking. Do not care. Sucks to suck. This looks awesome. Honestly, sometimes looking good can get you so far. Yeah. Anyway, one is about looks, and the other is about story. And this one is also awesome. I really like Roman Holiday. I love the exploration of Neo and Roman's character even further. I'm not gonna lie though, since this is relegated to a book, it does mean that a lot of people are never going to read it. I read it, their audiobook again. Yep, preferred format for a reason. I really like it. Good exploration. I just wish, honestly, I wish it was animated. Just so more people could experience it. Because it also gives us some insight into the criminal background and, well, of Roman and Neo, obviously, but also just Remnant as a whole. It gives us a better exploration of, well, Remnant society. And it just gives us a good look at everything it commits to. It gives us a good sight. It is very focused, and every single thing it focuses on, it does very well. Whether it be the characters, the world building, even the suspense. To be fair, we knew Roman and Neo they weren't going to die in the novel that is a prequel to Volume 1. We knew that wasn't going to happen. But what about the other characters in the book? We didn't know how their fates were. We could have assumed, right? But we couldn't assume everything, and that kind of coldness at the end by our main cast is very frightening, which also, it's frightening but humanizing, which propels them to be even better villains. And now when I watch Volume 1 again and Volume 2 and all the other volumes with Neo and Roman in them, I enjoy their characters more. So yeah, it's a good book. Just sucks that it's a book for a action anime, and we know action anime fans don't read. I've seen JJK fans. I've talked to them. They don't read. Next, Volume 9. Volume 9 is the best volume. Hey, look at the time. Gotta go. Anyway, I love Volume 9. It has my favorite episode in all of RWBY, that being Volume 9, Episode 7. I love the exploration of RWBY. I love the exploration of guilt and the confliction of, her and the confliction she feels in her inner self, but still having to begrudgingly, move on, so to speak, and still be the leader that everyone needs, and that exploration of the toll that leadership can take on an individual. I at least have experienced, the stress of being a leader through, my years of playing sports, but obviously never to that extent. And that relatability, I feel it's presented in a way where sometimes it does feel like the weight is crashing down and you made a choice, and that choice ended up biting not just you but also your teammates in the ass, and that weight does carry, and you can feel that throughout the entire volume, as well as RWBY's mental state kind of slipping and slipping and slipping, only to then have a really good finale. Now, the lore drop at the end, it's not amazing, but it's not terrible. The problem with the lore drop is, I don't mind it on its own, but I do kind of wish that it was a little bit quicker, or I need it to actually fulfill a purpose. I don't want lore. Well, honestly, I like lore for the sake of lore, but from an actual show production standpoint, it would be better if this lore dump at the end provided actual reasons, going into volume 10. What is that going to mean? What we find out, what is it going to mean? How is it going to affect us? How is it going to affect the Silver Eyes, for example? Or, Yang Sembo, who knows, right? But yeah, overall, I think it's really good. Also, on top of that, Neo is a very good antagonist in this volume. And guess what? She's not even the best antagonist in this volume. I'm not going to spoil anything, but she's not the only antagonist. We got some creepy people here. So yeah, a very, very good antagonist as well. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, they're also very intimidating. Now, oh boy. Alright, let's talk about the DC comics and movies and beyond. Alright, as you can tell by my, voice, I am not the biggest fan of the products going forward, with the exception of one, maybe two. So, DC Comics, this comic, oh my goodness, the art in this one, bro, this is a disappointment on an art level. The art is bad. The art is constantly inconsistent. Okay, that's fine. Art, the actual art in this comic book is not ever. There can also be a really good story. Oh, you're waiting for... Okay, so the story is just an average DC comic, and Team RWBY is also there. That's it. Pretty much. On top of that, they don't really use all the characters properly. Like, I'm gonna be real. In this comic book, and in the next, Team Juniper is shafted. Oh my goodness. Like, dude, they do absolutely nothing. Okay, that's fine then. It's just Team RWBY and the Justice League. Except their interactions are not that great, and they still kind of keep in their little groups. Also, the weird dynamic between Cyborg, Weiss, and Batman, and why is that a thing? Like, and why did they choose to keep that in the movie going forward? Why? There was no benefit. Like, man, I don't know. I don't know why they did that, but they did, and that's life. You gotta roll with the dice, but sometimes they give you a 1, and that's where you are. You are there. You are bad. Next one, it is an improvement. I think the action is a little bit better. I think the character interactions are a bit cuter. I do find it a bit weird, though, how Team RWBY is in the Justice League world, and they seemingly don't do anything that crazy. Or, sorry, they don't do anything that important, but yet in the actual DC universe, or at least in this comic run, they imply that Team RWBY's actions inspire a bunch of young women, which, I'm not trying to take away from anything, but why would Team RWBY inspire young women more than other DC heroines? Like, why? Like, can someone really explain to me how, like, Yang is more inspiring than Wonder Woman? Because that's what this implies. And I just find that odd. And then you add on to the fact that sometimes it does feel like there's innate shock value. Like, I guess spoilers. RWBY dies, except she doesn't. And there are certain stuff where that happens. It honestly just it feels like that happened just for the sole sake of tune in to next issue. Is Ruby Rose really dead? And there's a lot of that in this comic where something crazy happens. You gotta tune in next time. Oh, and then that gets resolved in the first 1 or 2 pages. And it just, okay, it happens once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. And you're like, okay, a lot of shock value is kind of losing it. Also because RWBY dying in the spin-off book that is also no longer canon. It's its own thing. Which also, I'm gonna be real, bro. If something's non-canon, you gotta send it anyway. Like, if it's not canon and it doesn't matter, go crazy. Make Blake lose a leg for all, like, do something crazy and make it meaningful for the story. If no one is going to care about you going forward, then gosh darn it, just do something wild. Okay? That's my pet peeve. Make Marvel What If, I guess, except with RWBY characters. There you go. Next one, DC Superheroes. Animated movie. Has some decent fights. Character interactions are not that great. I find it really weird that the Justice League is beefing with Team RWBY, and it makes them feel out of character that they're very rude and kind of dismissive, especially Wonder Woman. Why is Wonder Woman dismissive of her teammates as warriors? Like, dog, how the hell do you look at Batman and go, nah, you ain't a warrior? You know who's a warrior? Blake Bella, dog. Like, and there's just, that conflict feels so hollow when you're comparing Blake and Yang as warriors to Batman. Okay? Like, I'm sorry. This is Batman we're talking. And the fact that, like, she implies that her criteria of warriors doesn't fit the Justice League, but instead fits the random people of Remnant is very odd, and it just feels like unnecessary conflict that they added because they want to have conflict. On top of that, Batman not having that much devotion to his city is an interesting concept, and him liking to have superpowers, that is a fun concept, but it doesn't feel that great in the actual story. It's a fun concept, and it was probably fun to write in the writer's room, but it just doesn't work well in the story, and it doesn't work well with Batman and how Batman is even perceived in the second film. So, yeah, honestly, this film is it's definitely better than 5. I'm gonna say that. Do I like it more than the book? Yes. Just because they do have some decent fights, and also Nora is pretty awesome. Although, the Cyborg, Ren, and Nora love triangle is stupid. Again, why? Like, why did they add this? What benefit does that have? Why does making Ren jealous of a guy hitting on Nora, what does that add to anything, dog? Like, genuinely. I don't know. Although, the Jessica is the actual one Justice League member who I actually like what they kind of did in this arc, where even though they made her more skittish than what I would argue she normally at least is, she overcomes that, and it is quite engaging to watch her just overcome her fears and, you know, be a proper Green Lantern. Although they also make her seem way more important than the rest of the League, which is also a little odd, but hey, once again, I did not write this film, so I can just judge it on its own. Next, I got the movie Part 2. Okay, please, team, if anyone is listening over at RWBY, do not let this be the actual exploration of Weiss's past trauma, of Yang finally helping someone get over their fears, just as she was helped, in air quotes, by Tai getting over her fear, right? Stuff of that sort. It's good in this film. It is. It's a good thing in this film. I like that. But I don't want it to be the only... I don't want this to be here and then not be in 10. Put it in both. I don't care. Repeat it. This is the one time people will actually be okay with you repeating this, because this is a spin-off movie that is not canon. On top of that, there are some good, genuine good scenes, like RWBY talking to Superman and talking about their past and, you know, them living and all the stuff that happened in Volume 9. It is good. It is an enjoyable movie. Like, honestly though, the fights are a little worse than part 1, but I don't hate anyone in this film, which is very nice. I feel also there's no character that I would say is too out of character. Obviously they can step a little bit, like for example, RWBY being a little bit more gung-ho about everything and everyone acting as if that's a bad thing is a little odd, considering she's always been kind of gung-ho. But it's not... So, I guess if it's a scale, movie 1 was... If you put it on a scale, movie 1 was at, like, probably, like, an 8 for mischaracterizing, you know, DC and RWBY characters. Whereas this film is only really... Honestly, I would say it's more of like a 3. There's a little bit of mischaracterization, but nothing crazy, right? On top of that, there's just some better character interactions, like Flash and Yang. That's really good. Blake, and she gives a little fist bump to Jessica. I just forgot her name. That was bad on me. Or her showing care for Cyborg. On top of that, the superhero designs are actually fun in this film. And speaking of superheroes, this actually presents Team RWBY as a group of heroes that is on equal footing to the Justice League. It's not a bunch of kids that honestly fumble around while trying to, like, kill each other, essentially, which is what film 1 is. And then Weiss... The original film is Weiss, Batman, John, Jessica. Everyone else can literally just leave. Here, every single person is contributing, and it presents the two teams on equal footing due to the fact that they are both able to help one another in multiple different scenes. Different characters help different characters in different ways. Superman helps RWBY, Yang helps Flash, Weiss helps Batman, Blake is there, and so are the... But, yes, Blake... Well, she does help Cyborg a decent chunk. So, yes, it presents the two teams as being far more on even footing, with the slight edge being to the Justice League, but at the same time, it's the Justice League. Like, I'm not trying to hate, but, like, on one side, you have Team RWBY, and on the other side, you have the literal Justice League, which composes the three of the most important superheroes of all time, ever. Like, okay, so the top 4 of superheroes, basically for everyone, is Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, Wonder Woman. Did you notice how 3 of those members are on the Justice League? This is probably the most important superhero team to ever exist. And they are sharing the screen time with Team RWBY. And the writers, to their credit, somehow made it feel like Team RWBY actually had a place alongside them and could actually stand beside them as actual heroes. Does the Justice League obviously have an edge in that, and the show treats it, or sorry, the episode treats it that way? Yes. But having it be like that is a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing that the Justice League is only slightly better. And they're only slightly better because they are helping in the same way that Team RWBY is helping. That it's good. It's very, very good. They are very well balanced. I need to stress that enough. In a crossover, you can't have one person basically just steal the show and the other stand there. It's not going to feel like a crossover then. It's going to feel like exactly what I described. One person there and the other person is stuck in a chair in a corner, right? So, yeah. Overall, good movie. It is a good movie. I think I like it more. Yeah, I like it more than After the Fall, but I don't like it more than probably the actual, well, the volumes that I like. Next, I got And Beyond. This one's kind of a disappointment, honestly. And no, it's better than the comic. Yeah, better than you. No, not better than 2. So, I like And Beyond. I am disappointed by it, though. I think it had an interesting premise that it didn't fully capitalize on. It didn't answer that many questions, and if anything, gave us more questions to ask further. And on top of that, it just wasn't that great. There were some good episodes that explored things. For example, I liked the story where they explored John. I liked the story between Yang and Ruby. I thought Little's story was actually pretty interesting and I found quite fun. I just wish we explored other stuff, you know? Because initially this was marketed as what happened on Remnant while everyone else was, not everyone, while the main cast, the main characters were in the Ever After. And we didn't really get that. We got that for episode 1. Episode 1 was also kind of a disappointment, if I'm being real. We got a few lore implications, not even like lore drops. We got, oh, this might be lore. Please make a thumbnail about this, you know, kind of stuff. So, yeah, it has some good, but it also just doesn't properly live up to its own expectations that it's set out for itself. Now, I also don't know how it's going to be packaged going forward, because it is a spin-off, and you could probably skip it if you really wanted to. But at the same time, I do also worry that, you know, Yang isn't going to apologize to Ruby in the actual show, and instead they'll be like, oh, it's just here, which does kind of take away from the show, which is also another reason it's in D tier, right? So, yeah. Overall, I'm leaving it there. For packaging, though, I am not buying that separately. That better be a bonus feature on Volume 9 when I finally buy that disc. Mark my words, okay? I will be mad if they even try. I don't care. That Blu-ray could be $2, and I'd be like, I am not doing that. That will only be an additional bonus feature on the Volume 9 Blu-ray. That is the only way I am buying it. I do not care. Alright? With that being said, this is the tier list. This tier list is good. But I know for a fact not everyone is going to agree. Why? Well, because look at it. I didn't put the red trailer in S tier. You guys are going to tell me I'm wrong anyway. So, I hope you guys had fun. I will put a link to the actual tier list down in the description so you can do your own stuff with it. And also, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. So, I'm just a guy, and I'm signing off.